Picture this. Your biggest client, the one that keeps the lights on, just vanished overnight. Not because your designs weren't pixel perfect or your code wasn't clean, but because that invisible thread of trust just simply snapped. And here's the honest truth. About 85% of business relationships crumble, not because of performance hiccups, but because trust just simply went bankrupt. In our world of creative studios and digital workshops, and that's just not concerning, it's an existential crisis. I've watched brilliant agencies rise like rockets and then fizzle like sparklers. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, the difference between extraordinary growth and perpetual struggle isn't your tech stack or your design chops. It's whether the people believe in you when you're not in the room. Hi there, I'm Kurt Schmidt, founder of Schmidt Consulting, and we help creative marketing and software development agencies grow their businesses and position themselves as trusted experts through sales coaching, project delivery optimization, and strategic consulting that actually delivers results. Today, I'm peeling back the curtain on something that makes or breaks every service business: trust and integrity. It's the twin engines that power sustainable success. For creative marketing and software development agencies, trust isn't some fluffy value to frame on your about page. It's literally your product. When clients sign that contract, they're buying your promises long before they ever see a deliverable. And the data tells a story. When trust crumbles, clients scatter. When trust compounds, profits follow suit. This video is part one of a two-part series. Today we'll be covering the foundations of building trust in your agency culture. And in part two, we'll be exploring the implementation and what to do when trust gets broken. And here's the thing that many leaders miss. Your team doesn't actually listen to what you say. They watch what you do, and they watch it in 4K, or maybe 8K. When I started out, I thought having our values prominently displayed on our website and in our internal documentation would just magically shape our culture. I was dead wrong. The day it happened was when I turned down a big check from an ethically questionable client. And when our bank account was on a strict diet, that's when our values suddenly grew legs and started walking around the office. Building trust starts with three key ingredients. First, defining core values that actually guide decisions, not just decorate websites. Ditch the generic corporate speak. Instead, craft value statements that help people navigate the messy middle of real choices. These values need to come from employee-first perspective, not a show-off for our client perspective. For example, rather than just integrity, say, we choose long-term relationships over short-term gains. Instead of quality, say, we build in review time on every project because we believe in catching our own mistakes. Or replace innovation with, we allocate 10% of every project to try doing something we've never done before. Second, showcase those values through your behavior, especially when it costs you something. Your team has a front row seat to how you handle pressure, whether you distribute blame, or if you own your own mistakes, or if you build elaborate excuses. For instance, when a client is steaming about a missed deadline, do you throw your development team under the bus? Or do you say, we missed the mark here, and redirect the energy towards solutions? Third, establish clear and ethical boundaries beyond the bare legal minimum. This means crystal clear policies on billing practices, data handling, AI, conflicts of interest, and client confidentiality. For example, we always had a rule that we never billed clients for meetings that had to get rescheduled, or that we would always disclose when we were working with competing clients in the same industry. And these just aren't nice philosophical concepts for late night discussions. They're business protection systems that prevent expensive train wrecks. The client relationship begins and ends with expectation management. I love using what I call future-proofing exercises. Before the first pixel is pushed or the first line of code is written, gather your design and development teams together with the client and ask, what potential roadblocks might we encounter that could affect our timeline or deliverables, and how can we plan for them now? This surfaces risks up front that you can transparently share with the client. It feels counterintuitive to highlight potential speed bumps, right? But clients have consistently reported higher confidence when agencies proactively address these potential scenarios. For instance, telling your client, based on our experience, this third-party API tends to change like the weather, so we're going to have to build in extra testing time. This shows you've thought out beyond the sunny day scenario, because your clients know not every day is going to be a sunny day, but they're hiring you to try and master the weather as much as possible. The next is promise management. Under promise and over deliver is cliched and it's old. So in practice, this means just building in buffer zone into timelines and sprints and documenting all the commitments, not just the ones you're making, but the ones that the client is making, and then having a way to track them. Back at my agency, when we simply started documenting the client promises in our engagement tool, the client satisfaction jumped. It was huge. And not just because we did more, it was because we remembered what we'd said we'd do. And finally, learn to set boundaries with the grace of a diplomat, but the firmness of a bouncer. There will be times when the client asks you for something that collides with your values. Maybe it's rushing creative work. Maybe it's working overtime. Maybe it's making claims about the app's capabilities that just were never in scope. Or working with content that might even make your moral compass spin. Being able to respectfully say no while offering creative alternatives shows true professionalism. Clients may push back initially, but they ultimately respect agencies with a backbone. And if they don't respect you, you probably shouldn't be working with them anyways. Now let's talk about the hiring process, because this reveals more about your priorities clearly than any other mission statement or value statement. So one question I like to use is, tell me about a time you had to sacrifice a result to maintain your integrity. And this response tells me more about a candidate than their entire portfolio, their case studies, their reference list, all combined. Notice I didn't ask if they ever faced such a situation. I asked when, which immediately reveals whether they even recognize ethical dilemmas when they appear. Beyond hiring, you need to be working to create psychological safety. That way your team can raise red flags without the fear of becoming martyrs. This means visibly and honestly celebrating news even when it's terrible. When a designer tells you, I don't think we can deliver this concept in the time frame that the client expects, or the developer says, oh, I made a mistake that is going to take us time to rebuild part of the database. How you respond in that moment writes your culture code more indelibly than any handbook. Finally, find simple ways to spotlight integrity in action. Most businesses reward results regardless of how the sausage gets made. Let's counter this by acknowledging ethical decisions, especially when they come at a price tag. For example, we started highlighting team members who chose the harder right over the easier wrong during our regular staff meetings. These stories become part of your company mythology, and they're more powerful than any policy document. So in the next video, I'll show you exactly how to implement these trust principles into your agency, measure your progress, and because we're all human, what to do when trust gets broken and needs repair. But before you go, here's my challenge to you. This week, identify one core value in your agency that you claim to have and transform it into a specific decision-making statement. Share it with the team and see how it changes conversations. That simple shift can be the first domino that starts to transform your agency's trust culture. Thanks for watching part 1. Hit subscribe and make sure you catch part 2. And leave a comment about which of these trust principles resonates most with your agency experience.